So when we observe the mental objects, so we need to understand the striker element and the base sense element and responsive element. Yesterday, Sayadaw briefly explained about that. So in this case, the striker element, the mental objects which come and strike in the base is called the striker element. This is mental objects. These objects can be included in any types of the objects which can be which can be thought of, are all called mental objects. And then the base, the sense base, so which is striking by the mental object, is subconsciousness. This subconsciousness is especially obvious in the sleeping time, and in the daytime also. The moment we hear, we see, hear, smell, and occasionally the subconsciousness in between take place. So this subconsciousness can be compared with the door of the mental objects. And then this subconsciousness normally followed by the examining consciousness, which is called the Manodvara Vajana. And then the heart, on which these examining consciousness and subconsciousness are based. These three type of elements or phenomena are called Manodvara, the entrance or door of the mental objects. So mental objects normally come and strike in the base on these doors, or it is entrance. So in Pali it is called, these are called Manodvara, the doors of the mind. So on the base, this thinking mind take place, responsive element take place. When the mental object come and strike on the sense base, the responsive element, that is thinking mind, take place. So the attachment or greed, anger or hatred, this type of unwholesome mental state, or the wholesome mental state, they are come under this thinking mind, responsive element. So when the mental objects come and strike on the base, this type of thinking mind take place as a responsive element. And then this responsive element, thinking mind, is followed by the mental contact, which is connected with the thinking, analyzing, and then sensation. So these three, thinking mind and mental contact and mental sensation, are called responsive element. Yesterday, Sayadaw explained briefly. This point is briefly explained. Today, Sayadaw will continue some more about this point. So when we observe the thinking mind, we can find it as a thinking process, thinking or sometimes daydreaming, wondering, analyzing, reasoning, or keeping something in our mind, perceiving. These are all come under the thinking mind. So when we observe the thinking mind, we can realize this thinking mind as such this. So this thinking mind is the thinking mental process. So these mental elements or mental process are noted as thinking, planning, daydreaming, or paying attention, or observing, watching, and so on. So every time we think about something or someone, our thinking mind takes place. That thinking mind is a responsive element. So the mental object is come and strike on the base, and then responsive element, thinking mind, take place. So Manodvara, just as mentioned, the door of the mind, the doors of mind, which are the Vanga and the subconsciousness, and examining mind, and heart itself, is a base. On this base, the mental object come and strike, and then thinking mind, responsive elements take place. This thinking mind is followed by the phassa, the mental contact and sensation. Sometimes according to their characteristics, sometimes they are function, sometimes they are manifestation. So in some way or the other, they come and obvious to us. When our effort, energy, and concentration and mindfulness gets strong, we are able to see this mental process one after another, rising and passing away from moment to moment. We will not see any longer the mental process as a solid. We see the mental process in segment, and several types of the changes we are able to see when our concentration, mindfulness gets strong. So whatever thinking mind it may be, once we notice thinking, we must note it as thinking. Sometimes we may miss, sometimes we remember to note the thinking mind as it is. But anyway, we must make strong determination to note thinking mind once it occurs to us. Then when our concentration and mindfulness become strong, we are able to catch the thinking mind once it takes place. But in the beginning, yogi encounters several times the thinking mind. All the time yogi wrestles with the thinking mind. But without hesitation, we must note thinking mind, and later we have upper hand on it. So if we observe the thinking mind, the moment it takes place, we will be able to see one of the elements, or striker element, or base element, or responsive elements. So we will find them as a phenomena, and then we are able to see some more, that is the changes or impermanence of the phenomena. So that's the seeing, the impermanence of the phenomena, and then the state of the impermanence. This is called anicca nupassana. the seeing impermanence or realization of the impermanence. So when we continue noting this mental process, we are bound to see the changes of the mental process and their impermanence. And these mind and body's process are subject to the impermanence. They fall victim to impermanence. So we will see the mental and physical phenomena as a suffering or unsatisfactoriness. This is a realization of the dukkha or the suffering. And then later, when our concentration, mindfulness get stronger, we are able to see these mental and physical processes as a phenomena. There's no person or individual or ego involved in those mental and physical processes. Only mind and body process arising and passing away from moment to moment. So thus we are able to see the impermanence and suffering and non-ego or the phenomena. This is the Vipassana jnana. So minds are very unusual. Without control, it can go anywhere. So if we don't abstrain, if we don't restrain the mind all the time become restless, smelling and so on. All the time he goes after the sensual pleasure. So it's very difficult to have control over the mind because it is very quick, very fast. It changes all the time. One moment wholesome mind takes place, next moment unwholesome mind takes place. So all the time changing. While we are practicing meditation, our mind goes to the sensual pleasure. While we are paying respect to the Buddha, we are worshipping to the Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha. And then next moment we get angry with someone. So one moment we are counting beats, recollection of the Buddha, and then next moment we get angry with someone or something. It's very difficult to have control over the mind. So nothing is quicker than the mind. Mind is the quickest in the world. So if we imagine through the mind, we can go anywhere. Wherever we have ever been or we have never been. Anywhere we can reach within split second through the mind. So mind is such a quick element. That's why the Buddha said mind is quick, fast, in Pali lahu, very quick, very fast. And then donegha is very difficult to oppress the mind, very difficult to control the mind. And then yatha kama nipatino is going wherever it wants. Sometimes we are practicing in the meditation hall, but mind is not in the meditation hall, going somewhere or anywhere. It can be a suitable place or unsuitable place. The mind is going irrespective of our prestige or our knowledge or our virtue. It don't care. The mind go anywhere without paying respect to our status. Whatever status we are in, the mind can go anywhere, suitable or unsuitable, or proper or improper. Even the monks, fully ordained monks, even there's maybe Sayadaw or the abbot or chief monk, whoever it is, if he is not able to restrain the mind goes anywhere. Don't care one's status, monks or Sayadaw or the abbot, chief monk, or whoever it is, their minds don't care, they go anywhere. So that's why the Buddha said mind is very difficult to tame. So difficult to tame, difficult to be cultivated or to be developed. Very untamed mind. So we must note the mind the moment it takes place, so that we are able to have control over it. Otherwise, this mind all the time subject to the raga, dosa, and moha, greed, anger, or hatred, or aversion, or delusion. So we must protect our mind in advance from the several types of mental elements which usually come and spoil our mind. So all we have to do is we must observe the mind, thinking mind, the moment it takes place. We must tame like this, and then later it can become well trained and well tamed, and become very gentle and subtle, very noble and virtuous. Then we are able to keep our mind away from the mental defilement. Our mind becomes purified. So once our mind is about to leave to the unwholesome objects or sensual pleasure, we can catch it and note it. In this way, we are able to tame our mind and make our mind civilized or gentle. And later, our mind becomes peaceful and gentle and polite and civilized and tamed. So this mind provides us with the happiness. This tamed mind itself helps us to attain the happiness. So that's why the Buddha said the sukha vaha. So the tamed mind provides us with the happiness. The team. So we have to note the mind which can go to the sensual pleasure if we fail to note it the moment it takes place. So we have to note the mind, thinking mind, once it takes place. And then later, in due course of time, our mind is focused on the object longer and longer. And then the mind can stay away from the sensual pleasure for quite some time. So this become tamed, more gentle than usual. And later our concentration and mindfulness gets stronger and stronger when we observe the phenomena the moment they take place. When we observe them from moment to moment, then we are bound to see the true characteristics or true nature of the phenomena, and then there are changes or impermanence. And then we are able to see the phenomena falling victim to the impermanence. So we see the phenomena as a suffering, and then there's no ego entity involved in the phenomena. There's only mental and a physical process. They are interaction, interrelation, all the time arising and passing away. The old phenomena pass away and a new phenomena take place from moment to moment, all the time changing. So, for example, when we note rising, falling, or the abdomen, we are or the heat or cold, or any types of the mental activities or thinking, we are able to see the phenomena, mental or physical, arising and passing away. They arise and passing away in segments. So that's our domain or knowledge. Our field or the knowledge become wider and wider. So if we continue noting, observing or watching phenomena, the moment they take place, then the situation is changed. The object to be observed becomes later less and less. Or sometimes the objects to be observed will become too subtle to be aware of properly. So in this way, the objects become less and less in quantity, and finally we may experience the cessation of the objects together with the noted mind. We can feel as if we are reborn in this very life again. So if we are enlightened like this, that means we are expected to attain the Megaphala knowledge, then we are bound to free from the lower rebirth. We will be never reborn in the lower lives, because we are able to get rid of mental defilements which can lead us to the lower life. So there is no chance for rebirth in the lower life, because we are able to keep the mental defilement which can lead us to the lower life from coming to us. So this is our tamed mind, which help us not to be reborn in the lower life. That's why the Buddha said, Sukha Vaha. The mind itself, when tamed, can help us to obtain the happiness, or not to reborn in the lower life. So that's why the Buddha says Sukha Vaha, the happiness carrier. So the Donekata Lahuno, etc., the stanzas or the poem is mentioned in the Pali text by the Buddha. So for easy understanding, for better understanding, and for the ordinary people who is not familiar with the Pali literature, so the Burmese poem is composed by the late Venerable Mahasi Sayadaw. And then the meaning of the poem is just as Sayadaw explained. The mind is very difficult to tame, very quick and fast. It can go anywhere. So if we are able to tame the mind, the tame mind itself will lead us to the happiness and peacefulness. This is the meaning of the poem. Sayadaw lead us. So, if we are able to note the mental process or any types of the phenomena, the moment they take place, then our concentration and mindfulness become pure and strong. We are able to tame our mind, which can lead us to the happiness and peacefulness. So, all we have to do is note whatever objects, physical or mental or emotional, we note the moment they take place. So here yogis are noting all the time, as much as possible, each and every second, without stop, in order to tame the mind. Then later, in due course of time, mind becomes tamed, and then it can bring us the happiness. Such a mind is very valuable and priceless, and priceless and highly recommended by the Buddha. And priceless and highly recommended by the Buddha. And